And then what happens? They get pulled into toxic relationships. They lose time, they lose money, and worst of all, they lose themselves. Here's the truth. Low-value women have one dangerous thing in common. They don't come to build, they come to drain. Drain your energy, drain your emotions, drain your life. It sounds harsh, but smart men don't live in illusions. They don't let instinct drag them into traps. They recognize early and walk away even earlier, because this isn't about feelings. This is life strategy. In this video, I'll show you the 7 most obvious signs of a low-value woman, not to judge, but to protect yourself, because it's better to spot a red flag early than to realize it too late. And if you're truly serious about growth, about becoming a calm, grounded, high-standard man, don't just watch. Remember, share, act. Because when you choose the right woman, you move faster in life. Choose wrong, and you pay the price. 1. She lives for external validation. Let me ask you this. Have you ever been with a woman whose every Instagram post felt like a silent audition? Head tilted at the perfect 45 degrees, flawless lighting, a dreamy caption with a heart emoji, just enough to collect a few dozen likes, and a handful of "you look amazing" DMs. That's not confidence. That's emotional addiction. And the drug is attention. Low-value women don't live for themselves. They live through the gaze of others. Their worth doesn't come from within. It's measured by how many people are watching. They don't need meaning. They just need reaction. According to the Journal of Personality and Individual Differences, 2021, people who chase social approval are directly linked to hidden insecurity, emotional emptiness, and 33% higher anxiety. They don't know who they are, so they create a digital version, prettier, more charming, more seductive, but far less real. You think you're falling for a woman? You're falling for a profile. From a Stoic point of view, she has no inner freedom. Her emotions are ruled by things outside her control: likes, compliments, attention. Epictetus said, "If you want to be happy, don't place it in what you cannot control." A woman who lives for attention is never at peace, because attention is never enough. The more you give her, the more she wants. You text her more, she wants faster replies. You try harder to make her feel special. She wants even more. And one day, you'll be exhausted. You'll realize everything you say, everything you do is being judged through a lens that doesn't belong to her. It belongs to an audience she's performing for. She doesn't want connection. She wants applause. And if you stop clapping, she'll leave. Find another stage, a new audience. Women like that can't walk beside you, because to walk with someone, you need to know where you're going. And she doesn't. She only knows where the spotlight is. Now, don't get me wrong. We all crave validation. But if that's all she lives for, then you're not in love with a woman. You're in love with a mirror. So let me ask you, have you ever met a woman like that? Someone who lives to be admired, but not to be loved? If yes, drop a comment. Say, "I've been there." You're not alone. But here's the scary part. Most women like that have no long-term direction, no ideals, no vision, no mission. But we'll get to that right after this. 2. She has no long-term goals. Here's a simple question, but it reveals everything. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? If you ask her that, and all you get is a confused smile or a vague circular answer, then you're not standing next to a woman with vision. You're standing next to a drifting boat. No direction, no destination, no compass. Low-value women have no long-term goals, not because they're not smart enough to plan, but because they've never stopped to ask, "What do I truly want from life?" Their lives are a chain of reactions, not conscious choices. They work because they need to survive. They love because they fear being alone. They exist just to get through another day. Look closely. They're often drawn to short-term things: drama, social media, temporary flings. Why? Because those things require no depth, no clarity, just instant emotion. According to Harvard Business Review, 2020. People without long-term direction fall into something called passive living, chasing quick dopamine, lacking internal drive, and facing twice the risk of depression compared to those with a clear goal. And this will affect you more than you realize. From a Stoic lens, Epictetus once said, "There is no favorable wind for the sailor who doesn't know where to go." If you're a man with a mission, a vision, a path, then walking beside someone with no direction is like pulling a car stuck in neutral. The harder you try, the more she rolls backward. A woman with goals, whether it's building a career, opening a small bakery, or raising a meaningful family, she wakes up with purpose. She moves with intention, and because of that, she has gravity. But the opposite, a woman with no goals pulls you into circles, pointless arguments, vague plans, emotional swings. She spreads confusion, not energy. Have you ever loved a woman like that? Where, when you asked, "What's your dream?" suddenly everything went quiet? If so, drop a comment. I want to hear your story. You can inspire, but you can't be the engine for both. And worse, people who don't know what they want often use emotion to control others. Because when they can't steer their own future, they'll try to steer yours. And that brings us to something even more dangerous. 3. She uses emotion to control you. She doesn't need to shout. She doesn't need to threaten. All she needs is silence, a cold stare, a perfectly timed sigh, a sudden withdrawal, and suddenly you feel lost. This is what many men miss until it's too late. Not all control comes in loud voices. Sometimes it comes through quiet, calculated emotional storms. She doesn't communicate. She manipulates. She's not angry to express. She's angry to test. She doesn't step back for space. She steps back to see if you'll chase. According to Psychology Today, 2022, this is emotional manipulation, a toxic pattern in unhealthy relationships. People who use it often fear abandonment, lack communication skills, or simply crave control to mask insecurity. The worst part? It doesn't happen all at once. It builds slowly, like water soaking into a wall. You don't notice until you've trained yourself to do anything just to keep the peace. From a Stoic view, this is one of the most dangerous disorders. A woman driven by emotion, using that emotion to control others. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The strong don't control others, they control themselves." A low-value woman can't control herself, so she tries to control you by making you feel guilty, afraid, or in debt. The more you explain, the more she retreats. The more you comfort, the more she tests your limits. The more you give in, the more she tightens her grip. Have you ever been in a relationship where everything you did was shaped by her mood? Where you couldn't speak your truth, couldn't stay quiet, couldn't be yourself, because you feared she'd go cold, walk away, or claim she's hurt? If you've been there, drop a comment. You're not weak. You're not alone. Many men have been manipulated, not because they're blind, but because no one taught them the line between love and emotional control. They thought they were being patient. In reality, they were programmed to obey someone else's emotions. A healthy woman talks. She doesn't manipulate. She uses words, not silence as a weapon. She explains her feelings. She doesn't throw them at you like a grenade. Real love doesn't control you. It brings clarity, calm, and freedom. A high-value man learns to see invisible battles. Because sometimes you're not being attacked, you're being steered. And if she's used to steering emotions, you'll soon see something worse. She sees you as her emotional ATM, and eventually her financial one too. Which brings us to the next point. She cares only about what you give, but offers nothing in return. 4. She focuses only on what she gets, while bringing nothing in return. Have you ever sat across from a woman and realized every conversation revolves around what she expects to receive? Designer handbags, a trip to the Maldives, a responsible man, meaning one who covers everything. She has a list of expectations. She has standards. She has taste, but she brings no value of her own to the table, and you'll see it soon enough. She measures everything by price, not by meaning. A date without a fancy dessert? She calls it low effort. A gift that isn't the right brand? She calls it tasteless. But if you ask her a simple question, besides your looks, what do you offer the man standing next to you? There's a long pause, a silence that says everything. According to the Journal of Consumer Research, 2021, those who materialize relationships report 40% lower satisfaction and twice the financial anxiety. They're not looking for connection, they're looking for reward. From a Stoic lens, this is modern slavery, not to money, but to the feeling of being defined by it. Epictetus once said, "Rich is the one who needs little, not the one who has much." The more she needs material things to feel valuable, the more she reveals the emptiness within. The more you give, the more she expects. The more you spoil, the more she believes it's owed. And when you stop, she won't know how to stand on her own, because she's never created value. She's only consumed it from others. Have you ever been with a woman who made you feel like you had to prove yourself with money? Have you ever felt like you were renting her presence? If so, share your story. You're not alone. Here's a truth few men want to face. The more you invest in a woman who brings no value, the more you train her to see you as an emotional ATM. And when you stop paying, she leaves. No thanks, just blame. A woman of real value may not earn much, but she knows how to build. She contributes to your peace, your space, your emotional clarity. She makes you want to grow, not burn out. Remember, a woman who lives off the value of others can never truly love you. She loves what you bring, and when that's gone, so are you. But here's the dangerous part. When you stop spoiling her, when you stop paying her emotional bills, when you finally take a step back, she won't reflect. She won't take ownership. She'll blame you. And that is exactly what we'll talk about next. 5. She can't take responsibility for her actions. Have you ever argued with a woman? And even though she was clearly in the wrong, you still ended up being the one who apologized? Not because you were wrong, but because you were exhausted. You didn't want to keep listening to excuses, to all the circular logic, and especially to the way she made you feel guilty for making her wrong. That is a red flag you can't afford to ignore. A woman who can't take ownership of her actions is a woman who can't grow. No matter what happens, she always has someone else to blame. Her ex damaged her. Her parents were too strict. Society is unfair. You don't understand her. Everyone's wrong, except her. According to Psychological Science, 2020, people who avoid personal accountability tend to have low self-awareness and often use defense mechanisms like gaslighting, playing the victim, or avoiding confrontation altogether. Psychologically, this is a refusal to grow up. From a Stoic perspective, this is someone enslaved by their own ego. Epictetus once said, "We don't grow by being right more often, but by admitting when we're wrong." But a low-value woman? She doesn't want the truth. She just wants to feel right, even if she has to twist logic, rewrite memory, and reshape you to get it. And the scariest part? You'll start to doubt yourself. You'll wonder, was I too harsh? Did I actually hurt her? You're just living with someone who turns every consequence into an exception, as long as it's not her fault. Have you ever said sorry, even when you knew deep down you did nothing wrong? Ever found yourself trapped in an argument where you were the only one using logic? If that's you, drop a comment below. I want you to remember this. Silence isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's the first sign that you're being manipulated. A mature woman will say, "I reacted badly. I take responsibility." An immature woman will say, "I acted that way because you made me." And if you stay too long with someone like that, you'll end up carrying all the blame, even for things that were never yours. You're no longer a partner. You become an emotional sponge. And when a woman refuses to take responsibility, sooner or later, you'll end up responsible for her entire life. Even worse, people who avoid accountability often disrespect others while still depending on them to survive. And that is exactly what we'll talk about next. 6. She disrespects men, but depends on them to survive. Have you ever met a woman like this? She says, "Men nowadays are all liars." Then minutes later, she demands, "A real man should take responsibility and take care of a woman." She complains that men are heartless, but at the same time expects men to pay for everything, carry the weight of every mistake, and absorb every emotional storm she creates. That's not a contradiction. That's a survival strategy of someone who refuses to grow up. Low-value women often have a strange relationship with men. They despise weak men, but hate strong ones they can't control. They don't respect men, yet they need men to function. According to the Journal of Social and Personal Relationships, 2021, women who display hostile sexism toward men while still expecting financial and emotional support are 3 times more likely to experience anxiety, dissatisfaction, and relationship breakdowns. Sounds familiar? That's the type of woman who loves calling men useless until he pulls out his wallet. From a Stoic point of view, this is not independence. It's a disguised form of dependency, masked by bitterness. Epictetus once said, "When someone mocks what they rely on, it's not contempt, it's shame." And that's exactly it. She doesn't truly despise men. She's ashamed she can't stand without one. So instead of building herself up, she tears you down. She'll say things like, "If a man can't take care of a woman, what's the point?" But the moment you ask her to pay part of the bill, she gets angry. She calls you less of a man, selfish, or even weak. But the truth is, she's not upset that you're not man enough. She's upset that you dared not carry her entire life for her. Have you ever dated a woman who constantly disrespected men but couldn't go a day without one? If so, drop a comment. You're not alone. Many have walked into that trap unaware. The problem isn't about money, it's about mindset. A mature woman may want protection, but she doesn't treat dependence as a right. She appreciates, she contributes, and most importantly, she respects the man beside her. But the kind of woman who mocks men while clinging to them? Eventually, she will treat you like a tool. You don't even have to mess up. All it takes is not serving her at the exact moment she expects, and she'll accuse you of being irresponsible. She doesn't want a man. She wants a full-time servant, but won't say it out loud. And you know what's worse? Women like that usually can't regulate their emotions. So when she's angry, sad, jealous, or insecure, you will be the one who pays for it. And that is what we're going to talk about next. 7. She doesn't know how to regulate her emotions. Have you ever loved someone and felt like you were living under a permanent storm cloud? You never knew when it would be sunny, when it would rain, or when the thunder would strike, just because of a single careless word. That's not love. That's emotional chaos dressed up as romance. And the dangerous part? At first you think she's just sensitive, but slowly you realize you're no longer allowed to live on your own terms. You live to avoid triggering her insecurity, her mood swings, her silent treatment, or her explosive reactions. According to the American Psychological Association, people with poor emotional regulation create long-term stress in relationships. This leads to emotional burnout in their partners. And men are often the ones who endure it quietly until they can't anymore. Low-value women let emotions lead. They decide from emotion. They destroy from emotion. They don't respond to situations. They react to raw feelings. If you're busy and don't reply right away, she's upset. If you disagree with her opinion, she says you're being dismissive. Everything becomes a potential war. And in that war, logic is always the first casualty. From a Stoic perspective, emotion isn't the enemy, but being ruled by emotion means losing control of your life. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have the power to be angry, but not to let anger control your actions." And if she never learns to regulate her emotions, then you become the one who pays the price. Have you ever been in a relationship where you had to read the room every minute? Where keeping the peace meant silencing your own truth? If you've been there, comment below. You're not alone. Many have walked that path and only woke up when they were emotionally drained. A mature woman can feel hurt. She can feel jealous. She can feel insecure. but she knows how to handle it with maturity. She might cry, but she talks it out. She might get angry, but she doesn't destroy. She reacts, but she doesn't damage. But a woman who can't regulate her emotions, she'll drag you into an endless loop. And every time you give in, you teach her that her feelings should control the truth. One day, you'll find yourself walking on an emotional minefield, not knowing when it'll blow, just knowing you're tired, you're hollow, and you're no longer yourself. But here's the good news. You can catch it early and choose again, because up next is the final part, where you'll discover the true value of being a grounded, emotionally strong man. If you've made it to the end of this video, I don't think you're just here for entertainment. I believe you're searching for clarity, a truth you may have tried to avoid, a perspective no one ever told you, but one you've always known deep down to be true. Because this isn't just a story about bad women or good women. It's about your value, who you let into your life, who you're giving your time, energy, and peace of mind to, whether you're building or being drained. Stoicism doesn't teach you to close your heart. It teaches you to open your eyes before you open your heart. It reminds you, not everyone deserves your energy, your patience, or your dreams. A grounded man doesn't chase appearances. He chooses a woman who walks beside him, not one who only takes. A woman who builds value, not one who burns through someone else's. A woman who manages her emotions, not one who uses them as a weapon. If you've been with one of these 7 types, don't blame yourself. The danger isn't that you got pulled in once. The danger is if you never learn from it. From this moment forward, you have the right to choose again. Not someone perfect, but someone who lets you stay whole, not someone who drains your spirit day after day. Remember this, and let it sink deep into your mind. A high-value woman won't make you feel like you have to prove you're a man. Just being with her already brings that out of you. If this video spoke to you, hit like so the algorithm doesn't bury what needed to be said. Share it so another brother won't have to pay the price you did. And comment. Tell your story, because sometimes one voice is all it takes to wake up thousands. Thank you for staying with me till the end. I'm not here to make you feel comfortable. I'm here to help you see clearly. See you in the next video, where we don't run from reality, we face it, and we level up one step at a time.